Hello, this is Mike at GameFromScratch. Welcome back to the ongoing This Week in Game Development News Recap Series. This is week 47 for the week ending March the 10th of 2017. And we're just going to run through the news and events that happened in about the last week and a half to 2 weeks of the game development world, which included the tail end of the Game Developer Conference for 2017. So we're actually going to have a fair bit to cover here. Now, first off, before we get too far in, let me apologize. The channel hasn't been as active as I wanted it to be. Some of you may know, recently recovering from eye surgery took a lot longer than I expected, and I followed that up with a vacation that I just got back from, and then sadly I'm leading into March break, which is going to be a bit of a disruption. So I have not had near the volume of output I'd like to see on this channel, but don't worry, there's a bunch in the works, and once we get through March break, I have a ton of stuff going forward. Plus, I am going to be launching the Hacks Flixel series any day now. So through March break, at the very least, you will get to see the Hacks Flixel series, and you'll see things pick up on this channel. So again, my apologies, things have not been as fast as I'd like to have seen, but hopefully going forward, we'll have some great content coming up. All right, so back to the news. So as I mentioned, we did have the GDC. GDC 17 was just taking place. Sadly, for a game developer conference, we didn't see the number of releases we normally like to see. So there's no massive news in here. It's often cool when you get, surprised, oh, this game engine or this tool is now free. Nothing like that happened this year, but there were some interesting announcements. So let's get into it. Now, one of the first ones is the Kronos Group. Kronos Group is the group behind originally the OpenGL libraries, but now it's OpenGL, OpenAL, OpenCV, OpenMP, the Vulkan low-level version of OpenGL, etc. Well, what they're now bringing out is OpenXR. And they're calling it XR, obviously, because OpenVR is in use by Steam. But basically, it aims to be a low-level driver/API for dealing with all these various different VR headsets that are out there. And my God, there are too many of them. So we've got the HTC Vive, we have the Oculus Rift, we have the various mobile versions of that. We have AMD is coming out with something, Google Daydream, etc. Well, this is going to try to provide a common low-level API for dealing with VR. And as you can see, the people on board for dealing with it is pretty much everybody. The only name I see missing from that list is HTC, the people that make the Vive. But they make that in collaboration with Steam, and Steam did make the... Oh, wait. Yep, no, Valve, there we go. Valve's on the list. So pretty much every major game engine and every major VR manufacturer are behind this initiative. So what you can think of it as is a low-level, common way to deal with VR devices. And for the most part, most game developers are not going to deal with this. It's going to be more the game engine people that implement at this level. But what it should mean to us at the end of the day, if this does take off, is that we'll be able to treat VR devices as ubiquitous. So we don't need to deal with a specific API to support a specific device. We can use this more common level API and just generically treat all VR headsets as the same thing. And VR is struggling to take off, so hopefully this actually will help make, lower end or more accessible or more affordable headsets an option out there with less buy-in or nobody likes that. The walled gardens that we see for various app stores. Hopefully we're not going to see that happen in the world of VR. Another announcement from GDC 17 is they launched Firebase, Unity, and C++ SDKs. Google did. Now, Firebase is a web server service backend to do pretty much everything. It does, authentication, notifications, cloud database, so you can basically store data in the cloud, analytics, notifications, generic storage, etc. Well, they've just provided Unity and C++ SDKs for working with their product called Firebase. It's an interesting opportunity if you are looking at any of these things in the cloud. They now have these game-oriented APIs, and I do believe they said that there is an Unreal Engine version coming soon. Now, my only caveat here is Google. I don't trust Google, and I don't trust them not in that whole NSA spying on me sort of way, which I guess I could also say I don't trust Google, but I don't trust Google as a partner. They've screwed people over so bad in the past that I can't forgive it. They kill off web services with less than a year's notice. They've doubled to triple the price of the products overnight. They've just done so many nasty things like this, or so many stupid or ill-conceived things like this, that I would never trust them for my back-end infrastructure. But maybe they've learned their lesson. I've certainly learned mine. So anyways, moving on, another release this week was the Defold Editor 2.0 was released. I actually did a video showing this guy in action. It was a rewrite of the Defold engine, moving away from Eclipse to using Clojure. It's pretty much coming to feature parity with the existing editor, so there's not a lot of new functionality there, but it's better looking, it's faster, it's more streamlined usability, it's all those things, more stable, less bugs, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of an infrastructure going forward. It's available for download on the Defold site. You can now go to Get Defold and then pick which of the editors you want to use. Now, it is still under development, but the cool thing is it is 100% compatible with old projects, so you can switch between the two editors at will. Another announcement this week was App Game Kit 2017.02.28 was released. This is, it's actually, I featured this in the Closer Look series. It's a game engine aimed at beginners. There's a basic level script, but you can also use it as a C-level API. Definitely a cool project, definitely one you should keep an eye on. This new release, one of the biggest features here was definitely IPv6 was added. That's become more and more important because Apple has basically mandated it as a requirement for publishing to their store. Another feature that we have here is Text Mesh Unity plugin was released. Basically, Unity Technologies bought the Text Mesh plugin and have released it for free on the App Store. It is eventually going to be integrated directly into Unity itself. This gives you advanced text markup, text rendering type stuff. So if you're trying to render text within your game, that's exactly what Text Mesh is there for. And that is now immediately available for free. And then in future Unity versions will be available directly within Unity. Another release this week was Blender 2.78C was released. This is actually a test release, mostly just to fix a couple of bugs and such before they could move on to the next version. So it's just maintenance release, nothing extremely huge in there. Now, one thing that I did find, though, is my NVIDIA drivers and Blender did not work well together. I was getting like 2 frames per second after the most recent NVIDIA driver update. So maybe this fixed that. I hope it did. And if you are actually encountering that, there is an NVIDIA bug right now with Blender. So if you're having really horrifically poor viewport performance, do check into your drivers. There was a release about a week or two ago that really mucked things up. So hopefully this 2.78 release does fix that. I haven't actually confirmed. Now, of course, there were going to be some Unity announcements coming out of GDC, and what they did, so this is just announcements of stuff that's coming. There's nothing new, nothing was released, but basically they said 5.6 is coming, and 2017 is going to be the follow-up version. Now, 5.6 is scheduled, sorry, just do that to tick my wife off. It's scheduled to be released for March the 31st. It's going to bring features like physically based rendering, so your whole Substance Painter, Substance Designer type stuff, global illumination, better light mapping, Vulkan support, Metal support, which is Apple's go it their own way version of Vulkan, improved 2D tools, etc. And then of course that Text Mesh Pro that we just mentioned a second ago. And then what they're saying is that in April, the beta for what is now going to be branded Unity 2017 as opposed to Unity 6 is going to be coming. The big things that they're going to feature in the initial version of that beta is improved timeline support. Timeline is going to be their new cutscene tool for sequencing, drag and dropping to make cutscenes, etc. And a new scriptable rendering pipeline that will allow developers to customize and extend render loops for mobile, HD, VR, and AR. So I think the biggest thing between 2017 and 5.6 is basically the rebrand, for summing it up. Another release this week, this is actually straight up programming language release, was Kotlin 1.1 was released. Now Kotlin was created by the folks at JetBrains, the people that make ReSharper, IntelliJ, WebStorm, etc. They make some really great IDEs and development tools, while Kotlin 1.1, or Kotlin in general, is their JVM based or Java Virtual Machine based better Java. So basically they're trying to take what Java's got but make it more terse. One of the big complaints about Java in general is it's a very verbose language. You've got to type a lot for getting a little. And Kotlin tries to improve on a lot of that. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to the language that they're going for. So read their vision straight out loud. It's make a single, expressive, performant, strongly typed language across all components of a modern application. So that is the Kotlin design principle. Now, the big thing with the 1.1 release is the JavaScript target is now not experimental. And basically what this allows you to do is compile straight to JavaScript, much like CoffeeScript or TypeScript or Dart And so this is a language that can now compile down to JavaScript. And it should be able to work transparently, or mostly transparently, with any of the existing JavaScript libraries, like React or Phaser, etc. So that's the one major part of this release. Now, another part of this is coroutines have been added. Now, if you've worked in Lua, you've probably already used coroutines. And they're basically a very simple, very light, but very performant and easy to use way of multi-threading. And those are the two big additions here. There's other features that were added as part of the language as well. Another release this week was Monogame 3.6 was released. Now, Monogame is an open source port of the XNA, Microsoft's XNA framework. Since XNA has been dead for a number of years now, Monogame's obviously going in their own direction at this point. Well, they just released version 3.6. Number of fixes across the board, improvements, performance, etc. I think we can officially call the Ouya platform dead. But you see there's a number of fixes, quite a few fixes actually on here. Now, another part that came out during the GDC is that Monogame is coming to the Nintendo Switch. So Monogame is actually on an impressive number of platforms these days. And the cool thing is, with the Xamarin Suite being bought by Microsoft and now available for free, Monogame is a great choice for making mobile and desktop applications. It's a very, very, very portable library at this point in time. And speaking of Microsoft and XNA, well, when XNA started, they also had XNA Live Independent Games or something. They had their own online store for launching independent games. And it actually kind of started the indie game movement. And then Microsoft shot themselves in the foot and basically killed it off. Now, with the release of the Xbox One, there was not really an XNA equivalent. There was some features so that you could actually create games for your Xbox One on your Xbox One. You could basically turn your Xbox One into a developer kit. And they launched something called ID at Xbox, which was their indie games program to try and get indie game developers to develop on Xbox. No tools, no technologies. All of that stuff was still based around like Unity, etc. They moved completely away from that area. But they did launch ID at Xbox. Now, what they've done is they've created a more accessible version of it, easier to get into, called Xbox Live's Creators Program. And you can see by this chart where the difference is. And you've got some stuff not there, so you can't use presence. Or you can only use basic presence. I'm not even sure what that actually means. Social graph is limited. Multiplayer is not supported. So there is obviously going to be the big hang. If you want to start creating games for the Xbox One on your Xbox One or Windows 10 UWP, you can't get multiplayer support directly out of the Live Creators Program. You also don't have access to achievements. But it is this new program going to make it easier for you to create Windows 10 and Xbox One games as an indie developer. Also going to have some tools for promoting those games and a store available for it. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns up. There's no concept required. Basically, you just publish it basically out, get through a certification process, and you are done. So it's an easier, more accessible, but more limited access to Xbox One games or Windows 10 games. Another game engine release this week was the floundering CryEngine 5.3.3. Not a ton new in this particular release. There's a new C# game template, a refactoring of an existing template, and then several fixes across different systems, as you can see here, but mostly a maintenance release. Another announcement out of the GDC is that GitHub announced that they've released a Unity extension. Now, GitHub has never been great for non-source code backup, but they did implement something called LFS, Git LFS, which was a large file system, I think it says, or a large file structure, something along those lines. But it's more for aimed at 3D models, animations, movies, textures, that kind of stuff. So this all kind of works together. Now you're going to be able to publish and open source collaborate on Unity projects using GitHub. So that's ultimately what this extension is for. I didn't do a story on this one, but just as equally announced is Bitbucket announced pretty much exactly the same thing. So no link for that, unfortunately, but they announced that they're getting into the game space as well. So you can use these basically, they're source backups, but you can use them as virtual file systems for collaborating with a team on game projects. And this works directly inside of Unity. And you'll also notice that actually Unity is moving in this area as well. So collaborative, team-based cloud in development environments are becoming very much the norm in that space. Another announcement, I'm a little disappointed by this one. I was expecting a whole lot more. Zenko used to be called Paradox 3D. I did a game engine tutorial series when it was still called Paradox. They've been in beta for a long time, and basically they're a C# powered 3D game engine from the makers of Bravely Default. There's a company called Silicon Studios based out of Japan that's been making game middleware and games for a number of years now. And then they started this game engine a couple of years back. It's been available in open source form using the very restrictive GPL license, or the beta version has been completely free, the binaries. So completely free to use game engine till this point. Then they said, well, we're going to release at GDC, in advance of GDC. And then GDC came and went. And then they basically just got, okay, well, we are going to exit beta in April 2017, and we are going to announce pricing, but they didn't actually say what the pricing is going to be. So it's a bit of a non-announcement. We do know that they're going to go to a monthly subscription model with tiers. Ugh, a lot of people do not like subscriptions. I'm kind of on the edge of them. I'm getting a little sick of them. I like it as an option, but I like purchased outright as an option as well. There's going to be a free indie tier, which is cool to hear. Source code for the runtime will remain available for everyone. Notice just runtime, not engine. Source code of the editor will be accessible only to the upper tiers. So basically the people that are paying for it will get source code access. We will move from the GPL to a custom license. Although people that are currently using the GPL version and the beta version have a license for in perpetuity. So basically you can keep using the beta version stuff now, but the GPL portion of it is going away. That's sure to make some people sad, of course, but the lack of details here is, we're going to a subscription model, but what are the costs? And I guess we got to wait till April to find that out. Now, another release at GDC this year was there's a Spine runtime now for Unreal Engine. And Spine is a 2D IK-based animation system. I actually covered it. There's a link in this particular link, so you can learn a little bit more about using Spine. It's a great package. You can use it for pretty much, there you go, you're defining skeletal animation systems using traditional image-based drawings. So you can do some really powerful animation and reusable animation stuff using a more 3D style workflow, but in 2D. They've created a runtime, so you can now use it directly inside of Unreal Engine. So you can fully take advantage of Spine's functionality inside of Unreal Engine. Now, another release this week is GameMaker Studio is no longer in beta. It is now fully available. A lot of updates internally on their level tools. Let me know if you're interested in this. I can actually do a bit of a hands-on with GameMaker Studio, at least the free version of it. So we have an idea of what's there. But basically, they went ahead and they just improved the usability quite a bit, which I believe was a gigantic black mark on the original version. There was a lot of things that were just ugh, like tabs and copy paste, that kind of stuff. So general usability apparently is quite a bit improved. Level editing features have improved a lot. Tiled assets, 2D stuff. They've moved to it starts from $99 US is the existing price. There are some upgrade options for existing customers. Supported platforms are going to be Windows Desktop, Mac OS, Ubuntu Linux, iOS, Android, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and others coming soon. So that's one of the nice things that GameMaker's had for a long time. It's supported on a number of different platforms. And GameMaker has been used to either make or prototype a number of very popular indie games, such as Hotline Miami, Spelunky, Nidhogg, and Badlands, and more. So this is a professional tool. It's also a very accessible, beginner-friendly tool, but it does straddle that line. So it is now out of beta, available for complete normal purchase, full download, and it starts at $99 US. Another release this week, this one is completely free, completely open source, is Gyros Mobile, released version 2017.3. Gyros Mobile is an open source, mobile-focused 2D game engine built over the Lua language. This particular release focuses around making UWP, or Universal Windows Platform, previously known as WinRT, more usable. You got rid of an extension requirement in the back end, so it's basically easier to get started and working with. It adds much ado plugins. They've modified the Lua language a little bit more to add operators for min-max, converting from degrees to radians, etc. And a brand new advertising platform called KIP. So basically that was it. And then finally, and probably for most of us, one of the biggest stories of this particular release, and what I didn't actually do because I was away on vacation when it happened, is Visual Studio 2017 is now available, which is awesome. It's actually got a much improved installer. Is this the installer? No, it isn't. This is Visual Studio 2017. I actually just finished reinstalling it myself. It's much more modular in approach. This has led to, first off, when you install it, your add remove doesn't get 75 different items. It's very easy to add extensions to remove them, to repair them. You can pick just what you need, just what you want. Now, do realize if you say, I want mobile, it will add like 12 gigs to your install. But your base install starts at like half a gig and goes up from there from the functionality you add. It's improved speed, improved pretty much across the board. It's just they got rid of a lot of the bloat. They made the performance better. Pretty much most of the stuff that I hated about Visual Studio 2015 is improved in Visual Studio 2017. So kudos to Microsoft, great release. The cool thing is, once again, if you are a developer that qualifies for the community license, it is still available. I believe the limitations on that were something like $1 million or $2 million in revenue and a team of 5 or less. So if you fit that criteria, it is still available as a free service. You do need to provide an email address, but that's about it. So Visual Studio is available for download. It is a great product. I do recommend you give it a shot. And that's about it. I will give a link to all the stories we covered down below. I hope you did find this useful. We went on probably a little bit longer than I was expecting, but we did cover quite a bit there. So some interesting things happening in the world of game development, and probably get a little slower. GDC is done, so probably hear from me in about 2 weeks on this one. But don't worry, I am going to be coming up with some great new content. We're going to have that Hacksflixel tutorial series starting very, very soon. So thanks for tuning in. If you like that, please do click like, and of course, if you want more of this kind of stuff, do hit subscribe. See you all later. Goodbye.